Hey everybody, what's going on? So I'm in the lab tonight in the house where it's nice and warm, not freezing cold. So anyway, you know I'm up to something. I've got a table full of alternators here. So I've been working on my car out there, that Dart, the 69, and I've got most of the engine put back together. And so I was on to working on some accessories. So I've got to deal with an alternator, and then after that I'm going to work on the air conditioning compressor, which has got problems. But anyway, if your part stash is like mine, it's usually you've got a bunch of different things that are not good enough to work on their own by themselves, but you can combine the best of some of them and make something good out of it. I hope that's what I'm trying to do here. Now, that car had an alternator on it. That 69 Dart had one on it, and it did appear to work. This is the parts, the two parts of that alternator right here. And then I had an alternator that I bought off eBay recently, and I'll tell you a little bit about that in a second. Then I had another spare alternator that was in the trunk of that 68. No, it wasn't. It was in the trunk of that Chrysler. That's where it was, which was not its original alternator. So, anyway, I had suspicions that this alternator did not was not in the best condition, even though it's a reman. They're all reman, every one of these. None of them match front to rear or anything like that. This one, I'm not sure. This one may, but it doesn't matter. It's been rebuilt. I'll show you how I know. But this alternator that was on the gold cart, it sounded like it was noisy, and not terribly, but it felt like it had a noise in it. It sounded like it did when I spun it. So sure enough, you listen to this thing. This is the front section of it. This is the rotor in here. It's called the rotor. This is where the pulley goes right here for it. And so I have the pulleys off right now, but if we spin this thing and take a listen to it. It spins nicely, but it's noisy. So it's a ball bearing that's in there in the front of it. So it's not about to seize up, but the bearing has got wear on it, or it's dry, or something's wrong with it. I think it's possibly because it's been sitting. This alternator's probably been on there 30 years because that car got parked way back in the 90s. So close to that, I'd say. And also, I noticed that when I was looking at it, that there's movement in this bearing, so the bearing's shot in here. And so this alternator, this is how they're supposed to sound here. This is the one I got off eBay. So I'll spin this one for you. Now they're never going to be dead silent, but it doesn't have any of that noise going on, not like the other one. And also, I can tell the bearing is nice and tight in it because there's no movement, none at all. So that's good. And then this one, it's not silent. So it's a little bit also. So okay, you may understand why they're here, but you may wonder, well, what are you doing with all these? Okay, well, I'm going to try to piece one of these good ones back together, and I think the one I'm going to try to put back together is this one. And I'll tell you the story of why I bought this alternator off eBay if I had all these other ones. I have another alternator besides this one out there, which it's one I'm going to rebuild for that Chrysler. It's a numbers matching late 65 alternator, so the exact alternator goes on it. But it came without a pulley. And that car takes a specific alternator pulley. It takes a dual groove alternator pulley. It takes this one. See how much larger it is than this one? I hope you can see that on the camera. Yep. I can't see what I'm doing with that camera, but anyway. So that's that. Actually, this alternator was supposed to have this one originally too, but it's been changed at some point. This is a later style dual groove pulley. If it has a snout on it, on a dual groove pulley, it's later. So anyway, I needed this pulley. So I found this alternator on eBay, and it was for a reasonable price. And I mean, the alternator was like $10, but the shipping was like $20-something, which I was all right with that. Because this pulley, man, people have been asking a lot of money for these pulleys for whatever reason. It's that Hemi thing again. They've been taking these alternators. It's the same alternator that goes on like a slant 6 or a base model 318 with a one belt on it. And they don't mention in their ad when they're trying to jip people out of all their money for these things. They don't mention in the ad for that it's the same as some base model car. This that's a Hemi or that's for a GTX. So don't fall for that crap. Anyway, so I paid the auction. It was a buy it now, and this is what I alluded to a while back. I said I was maybe having some problems with somebody. So this guy goes a few days go by, and this guy on eBay, the seller, he messaged me, and his message was along the lines of, he says, turns out that shipping to send this 13-pound alternator is going to be more than what I quoted on the auction. So either I can do it for like $8 more shipping, or I can refund your money. I thought, oh no, that not all. That's not, you don't do that on eBay. Once the auction, because I already paid it, you have to pay it right after, or you don't get it. So I paid everything. I won the auction. So, but you don't do that. That's a no. You don't come back and try to extort money out of somebody for shipping, additional money. You just don't do it. So that and trying to refund an auction that's already ended and paid for, I mean, you can do it, but it's going to give you a strike of some sort. So I thought about that, and I got mad about that. I thought, I know what this guy's trying to do. He thinks he can get more for that from somebody else, probably. Or somebody probably finally told him, so you don't need to send that. It's that pulley. I'll give you $50 just for that pulley if you pull it off. So he tried to get out of the auction. I know exactly what he did. He's unethical. And he had a lot of feedback, and it was good feedback. I can't believe he'd do that. So I composed an email to this guy, and I'll just make it succinct, but I told him, I said, you can't do those things. I said, that's absolutely against eBay policy. I said, I don't know. I said, if I've sold stuff on eBay. I do a lot more purchasing than I do selling now. But I said, I've sold stuff on eBay. I said, I've misjudged the shipping. I said, but you just have to eat it. That's just the way it is. I said, I sent people their stuff they won. And I said, because I'm a stand-up eBay or whatever the word was I used. I said, are you? So I put him on the spot like that, and finally I made it clear that I was going to cause problems for him. I was going to cause a lot of trouble if he tried to screw me out of my auction. And so finally I just ended up, I said, send me my alternator. And I just, and I said sincerely and put my name, and that was it. I didn't cuss the guy out. I wasn't ugly, but I made it like my mother taught me. I made what I thought was right. I thought I made it well known what my position was. And so a few days went by, and I thought, yeah, we're going to have a standoff about this. I'm sorry for diverging into this story, but when you get one of my videos, I'm going to talk about stuff all the time. Well, if 64 Goat can do it, and somebody listens to 30 minutes later, you can listen to this. So anyway, 3 or 4 days go by, and I don't hear anything, and I wasn't going to argue with the guy. I was just going to crack down on it. I was going to go through the proper channels, and he was going to have a strike. If that's what he wanted, is what he's going to get. So 3 or 4 days went by, and all of a sudden I got an email in my inbox that said your eBay purchase has been shipped. And I thought, I got you. So you did what I requested. You did the right thing. So I got the thing. It's packed up good. All that. It's over. So, but when I got here, he made up this thing in his ad. His ad was incorrect. He said, well, I had it tested and it didn't seem, they said it didn't work. But he said, I just don't believe they know how to test one of these alternators. I thought, yeah, they know how to test it. Even though their machine there's probably rigged, I hate to use that word in this day and age, but it's probably rigged up so it probably fails most of them, if they're not failed. But anyway, I thought, I hardly ever seen one of these go bad anyway. So the thing got here, and immediately, and I had it back together. I tried to turn that thing. It turned about a third of a revolution and locked up. So I said, wow, okay, I never seen one do that before because there's not anything in these that really can lock up. You just got two bearings, and that's all there is. So I pulled it apart, and the first thing I noticed in here was there's a, right here on the back of the case, hope you can see it. I got my light. Right here in the back of the case back there, turn it a little bit sideways, maybe you can see that, but see there's a scrape mark on it, right on the back there. So sure enough, I got this thing. I thought, what the heck, is the doggone rotor bent on it? So I spun it, watched it. And the rotor shaft is not bent. This end to this end is not bent, but the rotor is not exactly perpendicular, perfectly straight. So when you spin this thing, it's kind of doing a little bit of a, you know, the fan blades is what's hitting it, and so they're going up and hitting the case back there. So I'm supposed to do that, but I don't think anything's going to cause a real problem. I mean, there's no moving parts besides this thing. So that's all that's wrong with it. I can file that down and make it work. But the only bad problem with it was that I got looking at this pulley. I don't know if somebody beat on this pulley or they pushed this alternator. Maybe that guy's mad at me. You push the alternator off from the floor and let it hit it on the floor. Whoops. People do that. Retribution. But it's got a bend in it. But I'm not going to be discouraged about that. I'm going to heat it up and bend it back out because this pulley, you know, too bad for him. I didn't want the alternator. I wanted the pulley off of it. I didn't say that, but that's what I wanted. So I got it. So I'll make it work. But anyway, so that's the story how I got why I bought another alternator. All right. So, and this, like I said, is extra. So anyway, that's that. So I dug all these things apart and I know what's wrong with them. I don't know that this will work. I don't know if it's electrically any good because, you know, it's got all these rectifiers in it, the capacitor, and this is the stator. That's the rotor. But I think it will. I think the thing hitting is probably the only problem there was with it. Brushes look good and everything too. But the first thing I noticed, I was watching one of Old Car Alley's videos last night about where he rebuilt the alternator on his Ford, and I glossed through that video how I tend to do sometimes because my attention span is just not there sometimes, and I just kind of watch and kind of get the high points of it. But I went back and watched it in its entirety, and the first thing I noticed about that, even though Ford came out with an alternator after Mopar did, was that Ford alternator was a lot. Motorcraft alternator was quite a bit easier to rebuild. These you have to pull the pulley off of it. It's an interference fit, so you have to pull. That's not the right side, of course, but this thing has to be. You have to get I use one of these jaw pullers, not the kind that's got the arms on it, but I've got a pulley puller set that's got this thing threads down in. It's got like a big nut looking deal, and then it's got looks like a steering wheel puller, but this thing threads down the center of it, and then you have these two little halves that go around this and catch this, and then a sleeve that goes over it, and you just crank that thing down, and it pushes on the shaft but pulls this up, and it works pretty good. One of them didn't want to come off. I think it was that one of those, but no, it was the one that came off the dart. Boy, that pulley didn't want to come off. I thought I was going to be stuck on that, but that's how you get those. So these things have to be pulled off and they have to be pressed back on. There's no nut on them. But the problem, you have to be careful with it because when you go to press the pulley back on it, that's what may have happened to this thing. They may have tried to push it on just beat it back on with a hammer. Who knows? But you don't want to do that because that can mess the bearings up in it. But you have to put the shaft down, the end of the shaft in, make sure that it's sitting on a, those mandrels or whatever they are on your press. They have to be sitting flat. This thing has to be set up so that the shaft, there's nothing pushing on this fan right here. So be careful if you ever have one of these parts, put the pulley back on it. But that said, to change the pulley, you have to take the alternator apart. You can't just buzz it off like he did, undo the nut and pull it and push it back on, or the nut or whatever, or like a Chevy, there ain't no nut. So this thing it has to be split. So, and where all these rectifiers are in here, Howard's, that Motorcraft alternator has just this thing you can come out with it. Just take it out. I guess it's got studs on the back of it. The whole thing comes out. Well, none of this comes out like that because it's all, if you can see that, but it's all soldered together in there. Those things are pressed in. It's all soldered together, and it's soldered to this, the stator. So there's no taking it apart easily. It's a chore, and that's why they developed that later model version, the square back. Because I think all that stuff's more modular. It just connects and comes out. I haven't ever had one of those apart. I probably will take one apart, but I haven't before this. So these things are a pain to deal with, so that's why they kind of got away from it. But of course, you got a bearing in the back of it. And his brushes came out from the inside, but these come out from the back. If you look on the back here, you got two brushes. One of them is right here on the back here. You can probably see it. It says FLD. That's the field connection, and this is ground. So this is a brush connection right here, but there's no wire connection because it grounds. That's the way these are electrically meant to operate. Is one of the field connections just grounds right back to the alternator case, because these old alternators that used the old mechanical voltage regulator, they control the output of this type alternator by controlling the voltage to the field connection, and the later ones, what's called the isolated field alternator, which has two connections, the later style, they do it by one of those field wires runs back to the regulator, so the regulator controls the ground side at the regulator. That's how it's totally different electrically. So yeah, we won't get into that, but anyway, so no, they're not as easy to work on. So I hope I don't have to do much on these. I hope this one works. All I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of find the high spot on this and just file it down and put it back together. Why not? It'll work or it won't. You got 3 bolts that hold it together. Now, one thing that was really fascinating for me, I wanted to know about this, was through the 60s, from the earliest ones, 1960, I guess it was, through 69 or 70, they had about 3 different amperage ratings on these alternators. They were all physically the same. They all looked the same. Some of them had a single pulley, some had a double pulley. But they had, normally the basic cars that didn't have air conditioning, like my old Plymouth out there, usually used like a 30 amp or 35 amp or 37 amp alternator. They kind of changed them as they went. But usually I always use the lowest rated alternator. Then the ones that had air conditioning, like my Scamp and the Chrysler and that Dart, those cars all have air conditioning factory. Used a 46 or a 50 amp alternator, and there's a 60 amp somewhere out there that floats around, but I've never seen one in person, and that was kind of the extent. That's the kind of the most powerful alternator you can get in those days, because the wiring in the car, the charging circuit on these has to go through the dashboard, through the ammeter, and back to the battery. So that's why 60 amps is about it. Because you start putting a 90 amp or 100 amp alternator on one of these, you're probably going to smoke the ammeter, or you're going to burn out the bulkhead connector. It's going to cause you some problems. They're just not meant to handle that. You have to rewire them. You have to rewire it so you have wire going from the alternator directly to the battery, and then you just work it that way. So anyway, that's the deal, and I wanted to know. I had no idea. I did some research on it. I want to know what dictated how many amps the alternator put out. So what was different between a 35 amp alternator and a 46 or 47 or whatever they are, 50 amp? So somebody wrote a pretty good paper on it. They said, well, it's real easy. He said, you just look at the stator windings. This is the stator. You look at the stator windings, see how much, what kind of windings it has in it. The more windings, the more amperage potential. I thought, well, that makes a lot of sense. So these alternators have been rebuilt. They both have the same part number on them. One of them was 23rd week of 65, which means it's a 65 alternator. It's an 850 alternator. That's the last three digits. It's supposed to be a 46 amp alternator. Exactly what goes on that crosser out there. All right, this one is 18th week of 64. It's a 1964 alternator. Same part number. It's supposed to be a 46 amp unit. This one is the same part number. 2098850, dated 4 of 1963. So we got a 63, a 64, and a 65 alternator. Supposed to all be the same. And when I took these things apart, you can probably see here that they are not the same. Look at the stator on this thing. This one has got, if you look at these coils right here, coils of wire coming out of here, this one has got 3 and 3 and 3 and 4 and 3 on this side out here. You know, look at it, I can tell that this stator and this alternator is supposed to be a 46 amp alternator. It is nowhere near half as much as this one does. Look at all the wire in this one here. See all that? I can't even count it because it's got lacquer if they're sealed. That one's not sealed as good as this one is, but it's got probably, I'd say 8 or 9 wires here on each one of them. So if you're ever having one of these things apart and you want to know, it'd be nice if I had an alternator testing machine. I don't have one. I'd like to buy one. Find out how many amps I really put out, but that's definitely different. So that's probably a 35 amp job there, and this is probably actually is a 46 or a 50 amp. So if you found a 60 amp, then you probably have even more, windings. I'm calling them windings. Maybe they're not supposed to be called that, but you know what I'm talking about. So there we go. So this is what I'm going to put back together. I'm going to take this apart just a little bit. I can look right here. Actually, I don't even have to take it apart. I can look at this one and tell this one in here. I'm looking at those windings on the stator. They're the same as that one. So this is probably a 46, legitimately a 46. This is 46. That's probably a 30 or 35. So that's what I'm saying is you can get, that dart was supposed to have a 46 amp alternator, but that's not what they got. And how would you know? You have to take it apart and look at it. I mean, it pays to have something you can compare it to each other, I guess. But one thing too, also, that you'll know the alternator's been rebuilt or at least worked on one of these Mopars. You look at the rear bearing in it. So this is a flat bearing and this is a flat bearing, and this one I guarantee is also going to be a flat bearing. Well, the original, if it still had the original bearing in it, it's not flat. It's ridged. It's got these little ridges. It's got a little like a Nipple-E on it. But so these bearings have all been replaced. So it's rare to find one of these alternators that's all the original thing. I think I've got one out there. I told you I have one for the Chrysler. So. But I think it's even been rebuilt, but the front and the rear dates match on them. But these have all been bead blasted. This one's not been. This would be a good core for the front match. I think it could be a good core to be rebuilt. But, yeah. So, anyway, guys, that's about it on this, I guess. It's not real fascinating, but maybe, I'm always interested how people can listen to these videos and they pick something out that they didn't know, And I don't profess to be an expert. I learned just like everybody else does, but I thought I'd share my knowledge because uh, it's just things to know, you know. Helps you out. You may need to know this sometime going down the road. And you know, I've had a real, I keep looking at this camera. That other one I had would shut off when it got to 20 minutes. I don't know how long I've talked. I know I sound a little stuffed up. I've got kind of a head cold. Anyway, you know, one thing that I've always, over the last few years, just had a real agenda about, I guess, or a real issue with, is these guys have been going on the internet and selling these professionally rebuilt, restored alternators. And there was one last night on there on eBay. You can find it if you go look for it hard enough. I'm not going to link to it because I don't want to promote him. I think he's a shyster. But they overhaul and cosmetically rebuild these things. And this one on there last night was just like one of these alternators. $798 is what he's asking for it. $798. And that part number on that alternator is, I think it is 3438173. And I happen to know that because that's a 1971 alternator that goes, are you ready for it? Goes on a 71 Scamp. So I've been looking. That's what I do when I'm not making my fascinating YouTube videos, is I shop for parts I need on the internet. Used parts like eBay and stuff. I was taking the place of actually going to the junkyard because there ain't no stuff, ain't any stuff like that in the junkyard around here anymore. But so I've been looking for the right alternator for that car, even though I'm not anywhere near ready to fix it up yet. So this dude had that one on there, and $798 for that thing. It's restored. So you know what? You know how much money it takes to rebuild one of these alternators? Most of the time, there's nothing wrong with them. They just need bearings like that one does. So I priced a set of bearings and brushes for like $25. Both bearings, both brushes. And then usually nothing really wrong with this. You can just clean these up. And usually nothing wrong with this. You know, you can cosmetically. What you do is, these things are supposed to be lacquered. You can see a little, well, you can't on the camera, but I can see it. A little bit of lacquer finish on this. And you lacquer this fan, this rotor, and stuff like that. Makes it look nice. But anyway, so the can of lacquer from McMaster Car is $6.90 something for the 12-ounce can of spray lacquer. So no telling how long that'd last you. Probably several alternators. And pulley probably, you know, they paint the case on it. They don't. There's no. You can't restore these to make them look good without doing something like that to them, because they just don't come back. It's impossible. This aluminum gets dark and stuff, so they have to take the thing apart, clean it. What's that cost? Probably not much. Put it back together. Before they do, they take their probably aluminum blast, because I looked at it closely. It's paint. It's some sort of coating. It's not, you know, it's not anything else, because the other option is what's happened to these. I've told you guys before, I think, that when you, no, I guess I haven't, because I started doing a starter video and I scrapped it because I was just yak too much in there. And going off on, you know, even worse than this one. But if you ever look at these, you see this kind of grainy finish, and all the numbers and stuff are kind of obliterated. You can't really make them out like this one. You can tell it's been bead blasted. It's been rebuilt and blasted. So that's the only other way to get a better finish on it. So they're painted. So you've got 2 bearings, 2 brushes, a can of lacquer to lacquer the stuff again so it looks legit, and a can of aluminum blast. How much do you think that is? That's probably not even $40 worth of supplies. And they do that and slap this thing back together. It probably takes them 30 minutes to put the thing back together, maybe an hour. And this went from being something they pulled out of a junkyard to being worth $800. So that's why you don't buy stuff like that on eBay. Don't ever do that. Don't give these guys any business, because you can, you know, heck, I've proven already that any hack can get out here and fix one of these things. So that's what you do. So I'm probably gonna paint this one. No, I'm not gonna do that on this one because that car's, it's gonna be just a driver. That's kind of overkill. So I'm just gonna kind of clean this and then put it back there. I'm not worry about that. But talking about that ad for that $800 alternator, let me tell you what else he did. He 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 saved a little bit of face. He didn't claim it was for a Hemi because it wasn't. He explained correctly that the Hemi had I think he said something about it had a different pulley on it or something like that, maybe a dual pulley, dual groove pulley. But he titles his ad on there with the keywords to get Moneybags car non-restorers, pay somebody else to do it, like GTX and uh, Charger and Roadrunner and stuff like that could have used that 3438173 alternator, maybe. But you notice he conveniently did not mention that they also went on a Plymouth Scamp and a Dodge Dart with a Slant 6 and a V8, 318 V8. He didn't mention that because, you can't get the, ooh, it's exciting. It's a GTX alternator. It's a Roadrunner alternator. They say that's going to be a buzzkill if he says, well, also for a Slant 6, because you know how those guys are. All the same way I hear it from time to time on videos. Oh, yeah, it's a Slant 6. I just wonder how many people that's gonna be a instant joy kill for them when they see that. Hopefully, if the Lord wills me to do it, I put that Scamp back together. It's gonna be a beautiful blue Scamp with a black top, rally wheels. Hopefully, I can summon all my abilities to make it look good. And they're going to lift the hood. They're going to be all excited. You know how people are, and I hate to make fun of people, but sometimes I just have to. But they're going to be all excited, and they're going to say, "What's it got in it? Is that a 340?" That's what they all say. Is it a 340? I say, no, it's a Slant 6. And they're like, you lift the hood up, and there's a Slant 6 in there. You just see their faces fall. Because it's that guy thing about a bigger exhaust, a bigger cam, a bigger engine, a louder exhaust, bigger mufflers, bigger tires, bigger wheels. It's like that thing that lives down there in between your legs. It's like the bigger the better for men. So I'm gonna be entertained by that, hopefully. All right, guys, I've yacked enough. I haven't even dared to look at how long this has went on, but I've been getting a little bit lazy about making videos these days, so we'll try to get them posted.